First cruise with P&O was a New Year 4-day voyage on Ventura. And I still remember how, by the last day, I promised myself I will never step on a P&O cruise ship again. However, I always believe that everyone and everything deserve a second chance. So, last year in November, I decided to book a second P&O cruise, determined to see if the cruise line could offer a better experience this time around. I booked a 7-day fly cruise on P&O AZURA, sailing around the Canary Islands with a stop in Madeira. I have to admit the price was the main driver behind my decision to give P&O a second chance. Now, it's time to reflect on whether such a good deal is a strong enough reason to book a P&O cruise. So, let's break down the key elements that define a memorable cruise experience. Embarkation is often the first impression you get when stepping on board a cruise ship. And as we all know, first impression count. P&O's logistics for this fly cruise package were impressive. I received all the information about flights and embarkation in advance, and the online check-in process was smooth. Everything was clearly outlined, and I was able to print my documents without any hassle. For those using the included flights, the expected embarkation time was set for 12 o'clock p.m. lunchtime, which seemed quite reasonable. However, there was an unfortunate coincidence when I arrived at the cruise terminal in Tenerife at the same time as 2 Jet2 charter flights from Manchester. Once past security, the rest of embarkation was smooth and efficient. From passing security to unlocking my cabin door, it took me no more than 30 to 40 minutes, which is impressive. The only missing from an otherwise smooth embarkation was the presence of the crew to create a welcoming atmosphere. Other cruise lines make sure that during embarkation, the animation team and other crew members are stationed along the check-in flow to offer a warm welcome on board or a happy to see you again type of vibe. Unfortunately, this approach seemed completely absent on P&O AZURA. There was no one greeting passengers or even guiding us through the embarkation process. The entire atmosphere felt like a tired routine procedure. There was no sense of excitement or energy, and the only smile I encountered that day was my own reflection in the elevator mirror. Disembarkation details were sent to my cabin 2 days prior, and while the information was lengthy, almost like an open university essay, it was easy to understand. One significant advantage of being part of a fly cruise package with independent flights was the absence of long lines to leave the ship. P&O also asked a passenger to place luggage outside their cabins before midnight, on the night before disembarkation, which was a reasonable request compared to other cruise lines that ask you for luggage by 8 p.m., for example. For those with late departure, P&O offered the option to store hand luggages safely in the theater, so there was no need to carry around bags for the rest of the morning. The most pleasant surprise came after leaving my cabin at 8 a.m. I was allowed to leave and return to the ship as many times as I wanted before the final disembarkation. This flexibility allowed me to enjoy some churros con chocolate in Santa Cruz de Tenerife, which was very nice touch. However, the human element was again lacking. There were no crew members around to say goodbye or offer a personal see you next time. The only smiling faces were the security guards in the cruise terminal, which felt like a missed opportunity to make the end of the cruise memorable. On board the P&O AZURA, I booked Orchid Suite on Dominica Deck 9, cabin D736, and I was impressed. The suite features a living area with plenty of space for comfortable seating or a snack, and the bedroom, which was separated by curtains, offering a sense of privacy without feeling too enclosed. The bathroom was generously sized and divided in two areas, one with a bathtub and shower, and the other one with a toilet and sink. Amenities were provided by the White Company that added a touch of luxury. The balcony located on the corner was quite spacious, but unfortunately it felt cramped. It had two sound lounges, two chairs, a coffee table, and even a dining table for four. This gave the feeling that it was more a storage space for excess furniture rather than a functional, comfortable outdoor area. There are a lot of other things that they're supposed to be added, but not successfully. The daily breakfast in the Epicurean premium restaurant, the Epicurean, was a nice touch, but it didn't quite met the high expectation that come with staying in a suite. The coffee served was only filter coffee, which was often kept too long on the heating plate, resulting in a strange taste every morning. The breakfast menu itself was fairly limited, and there were some old alterations to the classic dishes. One particularly disappointing example was the Californian toast, which had the original crushed avocado replaced with guacamole, an unfortunate change that really missed the mark. The service also didn't reflect the level of exclusivity promised for suite guests. It felt more like a buffet routine, with staff going through the motions rather than offering the refined and attentive service one would expect in an exclusive dining venue. In theory, the arcade suite included a butler to make your holiday effortless. However, the reality was far from what was promised. We saw our butler, Colin, only on the first day, when he provided us with a long list of things he would not do. Ironically, many of these duties were actually listed as part of the butler's responsibility in the official P&O materials. The last time I saw my butler was just before disembarkation. He came to my cabin specifically to remind me that gratuities for butlers were not included in the suite fare. Oops, I'm afraid I forgot to leave his envelope on the bed at departure. Unfortunately, with P&O, the expectation of premium service seemed to be more a formality than an actual part of the experience. The lack of consistent butler service, limited dining option, and lackluster attention to detail in many areas made it feel like the value wasn't quite there compared to competitors. If you are seeking a more refined and pampered suite experience, other cruise lines might offer better value for the price. The moment I laid eyes on P&O AZURA from the shore during embarkation, I wasn't particularly impressed. I had previously thought that Norwegian Epic was the ugliest ship at sea, but AZURA somehow felt even more uninspiring. It resembled a council flats building from the outskirts of a big city, with little to set her apart in terms of aesthetics. The Union Jack painted on the front of the ship is the only nod to personality, a signature of P&O's obsession with British patriotism. The feeling of something missing continued as I explored the ship's interior. On Azura, it felt that different designers were giving free rein, leading to an inconsistent mishmash of styles. The ship seems to have been furnished with items from stores like The Range or B&Q, and there was little unifying vision across the public spaces. Four rich fabrics and dark tones dominates much of the design, with glaring contrast in different venues. The interior design left me confused, and even if it was a 2015 refit, it didn't feel like the ship had reached the level of sophistication or elegance I expected from a premium cruise line. After spending 7 days on board P&O AZURA, I can say the food was neither the worst I've encountered nor the best. It was somehow between mediocre and decent. Nothing offensive, but equally nothing particularly memorable. For example, in the Meridian restaurant, the 5-course menu on Gala Night 6 courses often felt like an upgraded school dinner. The food was serviceable, but lacked any real finesse or creativity. Sindhu, which promised an elegant fusion of Indian and British cuisine with sublime flavors, unfortunately felt more like a corner Indian takeaway. The dishes were underwhelming and didn't live up to the lofty expectations set by the restaurant's concept. Even the Epicurean, a venue where a sense of occasion should have been the norm, was disappointingly underwhelming. The restaurant aimed to offer classy, refined dishes, but everything was dominated by a forced sense of Britishness. For example, who would serve lobster thermidor with a bland salad? And when I ordered a steak to be cooked blue, rare, it arrived medium done. Another sign of the kitchen's lack of attention to details. The pool side grill, offering self-service burgers, hot dogs, chicken, chips, and salads, was on par with what you'd expect from a basic snack bar. Similarly, the grab-and-go service, offering prepared foods like sausages, egg and bacon rolls or salads, and sandwiches, resembled a Subway just before closing time, uninspiring and lacking in freshness. Overall, the food experience on P&O AZURA left much to be desired. While it wasn't terrible, it certainly didn't reflect the level of culinary excellence one might expect from a premium cruise line. The dining felt routine, with a few exciting, memorable dishes to elevate the experience. The four drink packages available on board P&O AZURA range from £14.45 per person per day for the refresh package to £60.50 per person per day for the luxe package. As a big supporter of all-inclusive drinks packages when cruising, I had high expectation, but I ultimately regretted paying such a high price compared to other cruise lines. The selection of spirits was particularly disappointing. The brands on offer were typically those you'd find on the bottom shelves of a supermarket, far from the premium choices you might expect for the price. Even when a particular cocktail or drink was listed on the menu, the answer from the staff was often, "We don't have that on board." Some cocktails were good, but only if the bartender could be bothered to make them properly. It also became a bit tiresome having to ask for lime or lemon with every gin and tonic, as if that's somehow not a standard ingredient. And despite being on a ship, nobody seems capable of making a proper Bloody Mary. You had to mix the ingredients yourself, which defeated the purpose of having a cocktail made for you in the first place. So drink packages on P&O AZURA, no. Service on board P&O AZURA was unfortunately one of the most disappointing aspects of the entire cruise experience. From embarkation to disembarkation, the staff appeared overworked, disengaged, and indifferent to providing any semblance of quality customer service. In the dining venue, bars, and even the buffet, it was rare to encounter a genuine smile or feel truly welcome as a guest. The service was rushed in the restaurant, painfully slow in the bars, and the housekeeping department lacked attention to details, making the service feel sloppy and unprofessional. While a few staff members stood out with their efforts, they were far too few to offset the general sense of apathy that prevailed. P&O AZURA did send out a mid-cruise online survey, but no follow-ups were made, rendering the feedback process meaningless. On the ship, it was baffling to encounter a butler with no duties, a bartender who had to be asked for a basic cocktail ingredients, and wait staff who confuse orders and serve meals improperly, such as stretching across the table to serve a plate. This experience may be forgivable at a local pub or fast food joint, but they are certainly unacceptable on a cruise ship. When I inquired about the attitude of the staff, I was told by one of the crew that they felt there was little incentive to provide high standards, as most of passengers were Brits on discounted fares with low tipping expectation. This attitude was deeply disappointing and left a lasting negative impression of the overall service on board. In such a competitive market, it's hard to understand how P&O can afford to neglect customer service to this extent. The entertainment on board felt more like what you'd expect from a three-star all-inclusive resort in Turkey or Spain. The production shows were notably amateurish, lacking both professional execution and staging. Live music scattered around the ship was decent, but often drowned out by the noise of the crowd, with no real standout performances. The cruise director and animation team failed to impress, offering uninspired pop-style sense of humor and childish dance routines that felt more suited for a budget holiday club than a premium cruise experience. The lack of creative theme nights and poorly executed events further highlighted the lack of imagination. The cruise did have a few redeeming moments, with the live band Pulse and the DJ offering some relief from the otherwise uninspiring entertainment. But overall, P&O AZURA's entertainment was disappointing, failing to match the quality and creativity seen on other cruise lines. The demographic of passengers on P&O AZURA was heavily focused towards Brits, which, given the cruise line history, wasn't surprising. This particular cruise was marketed with discounted fares and a lot of different incentives like onboard credit, gratuities and drink packages, attracting a specific type of traveler. And it was obvious everywhere on board. From the conversation by the pool, often loud and repetitive, to the tradition like men dropping tuxedo jackets over the chairs on gala night, it quickly became clear that this wasn't the refined cruise experience I expected. Every night I saw in the nightclub ladies dancing barefoot in circles around their handbags, while during the day passengers proudly flaunted their oversized eyelashes and results of tens of tons bottle on legs. Early riser reserved their claim to sunbeds at 6 a.m. every morning, marking them with towels and colored pegs. And the buffet scene was dominated by people treating serving utensils and hand sanitizer as a mere part of the decoration. And add to that a karaoke star lurking in nearly every third passenger. And the picture of P&O AZURA become clearer. P&O's marketing campaigns paint a glamorous upscale image of their ship, but the reality on board fell more a glorified battalions at sea. The overall atmosphere, from the crowd to the behavior, didn't match the refined cruise experience I had imagined. If anyone asks whatever P&O is just a floating battalions, my answer will be a resounding yes. Bottom line, P&O clearly has a very specific target market. If discounted fares are your main deciding factor when choosing between a cruise, a three-star all-inclusive resort, or a holiday caravan park, and you are okay with the atmosphere that comes with it, you'll have a great time on board. For some, the appeal of saying that they spent a week on a cruise instead of Warner's Hotel or Costa Blanca Resort, it's enough. Even if the food is mediocre, the ambience is driven by beer and loud voices, and you are flying on a low-cost charter. For me, however, and I'm sure for many other dedicated cruisers, the experience means more than just getting a good deal. Quality should always come before quantity, and P&O Azura just didn't meet my expectation. There are plenty of cruise lines that strike a better balance between excellent food, service, and accommodation, creating an experience that is truly memorable for the right reason. Suddenly, P&O Azura didn't make the cut, and I won't be choosing P&O again.